dreams, forgotten heroes, who knows their names? Broken futures, shattered dreams, end of times ain't what it seems.
Hello friends, this is Sam Trinity reporting for Weaponized News. Today is November 25th, 2025. We got a lot of 25s today. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. As we go into the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, it's looking like we're going to attack Venezuela at any time. There's reports of United States boots on the ground in Somalia. It's not good, man. It's not good. Trump's pardoning the turkey today. Trump's pardoning the turkey, and we're in some type of gunfight there in Somalia. We'll get to that report. They're making a big deal out of all this. I don't know. Is it a big deal? It doesn't feel like a big deal. They're trying to make a big deal out of it. This whole sedition with these quote lawmakers putting out the video we've been covering the last few days here now, saying not to follow illegal orders given by Trump. Looks like they're really cracking down on this now. The FBI is set to interview the lawmakers, and the Department of War is issuing a memorandum against Captain Mark E. Kelly. He's retired out of the Navy, and he's a senator. They're out of, where the hell is he out of? Arizona? I think he's out of Arizona, right? Anyway, they're making a big deal about it, so we'll report on it. They got a bunch of these government propagandists. I guess they're American patriots. They're in the service. You'd think that these dopes would wake up, but they're not waking up. So they're government propagandists at this point. They're old enough to know better. But you got a bunch of these characters they've enlisted to go ahead and make videos that the White House is posting about how this is sedition. That's a seditious six. So we'll play some of those. But they're your same clown influencers, MAGA clown influencers on the internet that say that this is sedition. Feels like another psyop to me. Whole lot to do about nothing. They're out there saying that this is a coup against Trump and all the rest of this. It just feels like a giant distraction to me when hardly anyone is reporting on the fact that they have boots on the ground in Somalia. Kind of a big deal. Yeah, who cares, right? Just some more dead third worlders and maybe some, but it's a crazy report. We'll get to it. We got economic news. The White House just continually lies. It's the greatest economy ever, really. We'll take a look at, do some price comparisons from 1981 to today. There's a bunch of job cut news. Oh, they're not even going to issue economic data for the third quarter. Just trust the lying government. It's beyond the pale here. Trump administration buying up stakes in private firms. We got that report out of the failing New York Times. Public-private partnership, socialism, fascism, whatever ism you want to call it. It's definitely not a free enterprise. That's for sure. We got that to go over. What else do we got today? Quite a bit, actually. We're going to take a second look. We're going to take a second look at this Mission Genesis as the White House launches the Presidential AI Challenge. We're going to take a deeper look at Genesis mission, what all this is about. They admit here, well, we'll get to the reporting on it. A bunch of technocracy news, because that's what this is, technocracy. A bunch of news about that. The War Department still prepping for war. They're in Venezuela. Operation Southern Spear ongoing. Extrajudicial assassinations. Cover that. What else? We got geopolitical news. So apparently it's being reported that Ukraine has agreed to the Trump White House peace deal. We're waiting on word from Russia now. Apparently the ball is in Russia's court, or the bullet is in Russia's court. And so we're just waiting. We're just waiting to see what Russia has to say now. And that could be coming out at any time. Other geopolitical news. And then the big one here, the big one from antiwar.com, and they're citing this foreign source out of Somalia that indeed U.S. Special Operation Forces, along with Puntland counterterrorism forces, conducted a direct raid involving ground and aerial combats targeting ISIS militants in Somalia. Cover that. Bunch of other geopolitical news. The Aardvark land genocide continues. Big report out of, who the heck did this report? It's in German, had to translate it into English for our reading here. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Demographic Research in Rostock, Germany, estimate over, or at least 100,000 people have died in Gaza in the genocide there. We'll go over that report. And a bunch more. It just continues. There's a ceasefire and they're stacking bodies. It's the same routine that we continue to report here, sadly. All right, on to this day in history. This day in history. If I can get there to the tab. There we are. On this day in history, and there was a few natural disasters that very tragically took tens of thousands of lives. Here's the first one. On this day of November 25th, going back to the year 1667, a deadly earthquake rocks Shamatai in the Caucasus, killing an estimated 80,000 people. That's quite an earthquake. Death toll there in the Caucasus. In 1744, on this day, Austrian forces pillage and kill aardvarks in Prague. In 1783, Britain evacuates New York City, its last military position in the United States. In 1792, on this date, Benjamin Banneker first publishes his Farmer's Almanac, making him the first Black American to publish a scientific book. 1792. In 1839, on this day, another horrible natural disaster. 1839, cyclone slams southeastern India with high winds and a 40-foot storm surge, destroying the city of Koringa. Storm waves sweep island, destroying 20,000 ships and killing an estimated 300,000 people on this day in 1839 there in southeastern India. Very tragic event. In 1864, on this day, a Confederate plot to burn New York City fails. Sadly, right? No, we don't want New York City burned. Then in 1874, on this day, United States Greenback Party is established as a political party consisting primarily of farmers affected by the Panic of 1873. In 1905, on this day, we saw the first ad for a radio set. 1905, the first telegraph transmitter with a 1 mile range is advertised in Scientific American for $8.50. Wireless telegraph being sold. In 1973, on this day, U.S. cuts maximum speed limit to 55 miles per hour as an emergency conservation measure. I can't drive 55. I'm pretty sure you heard the song there by Sammy Hagar. So we do appreciate those conservation measures to slow us down to 55 miles an hour. And then, interestingly enough, on this day in 1979, Pat Summerall and John Madden broadcast a game together for the first time. And they're these football broadcasters, right? But turns out Pat Summerall's daughter, according to Trump, is the most powerful woman in the world. Susie Wiles, his campaign manager, chief of staff, excuse me. So tying that into Pat Summerall and his most powerful daughter, no doubt. In the year 2020, on this day, then President Trump pardons former security advisor Michael Flynn, who had pled guilty of lying to the FBI. Michael Flynn is, he's bad news, man. Bad freaking news. Constantly running psyops on the American people. It's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. In 2024, on this day, so just last year, U.S. Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith requests and is granted dismissal of pending criminal charges against Donald Trump based on their policy that indicting or trying a sitting president would violate the Constitution and interfere with the working of the executive branch. It was all political theater. And I admit, at the beginning, they tricked me too with Trump. The very beginning, right, all the way up to Operation Warp Speed. I was with Trump, so I was like, man, the whole system's against him. You know what I mean? So he must be a good guy. And then I started really looking into it, and I was like, nah, it's all fake. It's all fake. They attack him to try to give him that street cred, so you'll support him. Well, that we know the system's evil, corrupt, and if they're all against him, he must be good. No, he's an actor playing the role of the heel, you see. And that's the facts of the matter, man. Sorry to tell everybody out there, but this is all fake, okay? And with that, our civil liberties history. Let's take a look at, in the year 1918, quote, patriotic mob attacks socialist Rand School of Social Science. A mob of self-styled, quote, patriots led by a Canadian soldier in uniform attacked the socialist Rand School of Social Science in New York City on this day. Founded in 1906, the Rand School was arguably the largest educational institute in the United States that taught socialist-related courses. Many prominent socialists and radicals, including Elizabeth Gurley Flynn and Scott Nearing, spoke at Rand-sponsored events or taught regular courses there. So they were attacked on this day there. And then what else do we have? International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. In the year 2000, on this day, the United Nations designated the day as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The date was selected to mark the 1960 assassination of three Maribel sisters, Dominican Republic political activists, on orders by Dominican Republic dictator Rafael Trujillo. Women activists had marked the day since 1981. The U.S. Congress passed the Violence Against Women Act, the first such legislation in American history, on September 13th, 1994. And I saw a post on the X where Aardvark Land was posted a meme about celebrating International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And people are like, but you just whacked a bunch of women over there in Gaza. Just saying. All right, here's a segue to the news for you. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump pardon gobble in Thanksgiving turkey pardon.
Are you ready? Gobble. I just want to tell you this, very important. You are hereby unconditionally pardoned. Praise the Lord. Beautiful. That's nice. Who would want to harm this beautiful girl? That's good.
So I guess they're not going to whack gobble there for Thanksgiving dinner. Gobble unconditionally pardoned by President Trump. There you go. Let's hear now from Trump. Is Trump losing his charisma? Things aren't so cute and funny as they once were. Here now with his brash personality, to say the least.
The turkeys being pardoned today go by the names of Gobble and Waddle. When I first saw their pictures, I thought we should send them, I shouldn't say this. I was going to call them Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those two people. I wouldn't pardon them. I wouldn't care what Melania told me. Darling, I think it would be a nice thing to do. I won't do it, darling. The turkeys being pardoned.
Sure, buddy. Just like you locked up Hillary. Keep pumping that bullshit. Okay, here's the FBI is arranging interviews with 6 Democrat lawmakers who recently released a video telling U.S. service members to refuse illegal orders. These lawmakers include Elisa Stolken, Mark Kelly, Jason Crow, Maggie Goodlander, Chris Deluzio, and Chrissy Hallahan. So FBI is going to talk to them. They're making a deal out of this. Here's the letter. Here's the memo from the Department of War to Mark Kelly. Memorandum for Secretary of the Navy. Subject line: potentially unlawful conduct by Captain Mark E. Kelly, U.S. Navy, retired. The Department of War recently received information regarding potentially unlawful comments made by Captain retired Mark E. Kelly in a public video on or about November 18, 2025. I am referencing this and any other related matters for your review, consideration, and disposition as you deem appropriate. Please provide me a brief on the outcome of your review by no later than December 10th. And so they're going to run them. They're trying to make it a thing. They're trying to make, is it a thing? It doesn't feel like a thing. But here's your clownfluencers on, this is shared by the White House Rapid Response 47 account. And you got this guy, Graham Allen, this woman, Ashley, whatever she is. These are allegedly all veterans. This guy, Alpha Warrior, Dan Ball. Who's this? Steve. All big accounts on the X, right? They're government propagandists. I don't know. Let's hear from one of these characters. They're all reading the same script. The government gave these people, these veterans, a script, and they're all reading it. So they're doing government propaganda here now, essentially. Let's pick a random one. This guy. Who's this guy? Travis Nealton. He's in his profile. It says says Christ is King, girl dad, Army warfighter, former city and military police, bodyguard, Desert Storm. No, yeah. Okay, let's hear the script that they're all rolling out. Hashtag seditious6. Maybe they should get the message they don't use hashtags on X anymore. I don't know. Maybe not. Let's hear what he had to say, and we'll take a look at another one. Looks like a giant op they're rolling out here now. Much to do about nothing. Were the troops really considering not following illegal orders? You know what I mean? Like, what?
Hello, I just had to make a quick video for all these pathetic responses to the Seditious Six, and they're coming out saying it's okay what they said. Now people like Vindman are coming out and saying in support of these Seditious Six. But anyway, I just had to do a video for President Trump in support of him as a veteran of a foreign war, and Sergeant, when I got out, chain of command was everything important, and for these guys to come out and pretend like what they said wasn't true, or what they said didn't have meaning. Words have meaning. Four of them were officers. One was in the CIA. 3 were military officers, and they're trying to pretend this wasn't a big deal. So their seditious behavior should be dealt with, and 100% support of President Trump. And
do words have meaning? None of these politicians' words have any meaning. And so these guys are trying to, but it's transparently propaganda from the government, because the White House is reposting this. You didn't just randomly make up hashtag seditious6. There's a bunch of these veterans that got the script from the White House to make these videos, enlisting as now government propagandists. Thank you for your service, cooking all of this nonsense up. Here's another one. Who's this guy? This guy is Chad Canton. Chad Canton. Let's hear from him. Who's he? Says he's Veterans for Trump Coalition, Trump campaign media surrogate. I guess this guy's at least tells you in his little bio there on the X. Who's this? Right Side Rebel, a Army 12B vet showing behind the scenes and truths about what's actually going on. Let's hear from this woman. Did she even say her name? Maybe she says her real name in the video. But you can see there's like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 of these clips that are meant to look like just random and spontaneous. It's not. All right. So this campaign in and of itself is misleading.
Hearing these lawmakers urge our service members to go against our president's orders in the future, as a veteran, it just makes me angrier and angrier every time I hear it, every time I see something about it. We took an oath. We swore in, and by that oath, it states that we will obey the orders of the President of the United States. So how are these lawmakers going to tell us to disobey our president? The lawmakers who could not vote for a pay raise for our military, but they will vote for drag shows and drag story hours on the military.
So anyhow, there's a bunch of these clips. Now the White House is reposting. And so these are government propagandists, man, with no shame whatsoever. They're trying to make a thing out of it. We'll follow it. What is Plutonium said that he would eat both those birds, and he got censored in the chat for dropping the F-bomb. Yeah, that'll happen. Okay, so we're following that, watching that. On to the economy. It's the greatest economy ever. It's the golden age, we're told. Let's take a look at this flashback to Thanksgiving dinner costs in 1981. And then we'll compare that to today's prices.
Thanksgiving dinner 1981 will not be as expensive as some people may think. We took a typical list of Thanksgiving dinner items to 4 different grocery chains in the Albuquerque area to compare prices. We purchased items to feed 6 adults. Here's what we found. A 12-pound turkey averaged $6.69. The average cost for 12 ounces of stuffing was $1.04. 15 ounces of cornbread mix averaged 69 cents. 2 15-ounce cans of green beans averaged 76 cents. 3 pounds of yams averaged $1.59, and a 7-ounce jar of marshmallow cream was 57 cents. 1 16-ounce can of cranberry sauce cost an average of 57 cents. A 16-ounce can of pumpkin also cost an average 57 cents. Mincemeat ranged in price from $2.29 to $2.99 for a 28-ounce jar. 2 9-inch pie crust averaged 65 cents, and 8 ounces of whipped topping averaged 73 cents at the 4 stores. The total show the most expensive of the 4 stores we shopped was Furr's, with a total cost of $17.83 for the items, followed by Smith's at $16.52, Bag & Save at $15.77, and Albertsons at the low end with a total of $15.75 for all items. As you can see from our figures, you can enjoy a complete Thanksgiving dinner for a little more than it might cost to take a family of 6 to a fast food outlet on the weekend, if you shop.
What did it say? 15 what? $15.75 at Albertsons in 1981. You could have a Thanksgiving dinner. We're very far removed from that. So we're doing on average broad averages across prices. I understand it varies significantly, but we're saying on average across retail averages in 2025, a 16-pound turkey cost $21.50. Stuffing mix $3.71. Cornbread mix $1.25. Canned green beans $1.50. Sweet potatoes for 3 pounds $4. Marshmallows 10 ounces $1.50. Jellied cranberry sauce 14 ounces $2.50. Canned pumpkin 15 ounces $2.50. Mince meat jar $6. Pie crust 2 of them $3.37. Whipped topping $1.87 for a total of $49.70, up from the 1981 number there, $15.75. So quite an increase there in the price of a Thanksgiving dinner. And I believe that is very low. And how many items is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 items. Apples to apples, oranges to oranges for a proper data comparison. So yeah, our purchasing power has decreased here now since 1981 drastically. I didn't do the calculation for the percentage here. I probably should have for you, but yeah, that illustration shows how much prices have increased or the value of your dollars have decreased, however you want to look at it. Hope everyone does have a happy Thanksgiving with the family here now, and everybody's able to get all of the food that they need here now to satiate them for this holiday as we give thanks. Okay, the golden economy. I don't know. You tell me. HP, Hewlett Packard will cut 4,000 to 6,000 jobs by the end of fiscal year 2028 due to AI integrations. The company estimated it will save approximately $1 billion, according to a report out of CNBC. Private payroll losses accelerated in the past 4 weeks, according to ADP payroll company. Private companies lost an average of 13,500 jobs a week over the past 4 weeks, ADP has said. With the government shutdown still impacting data releases, alternative information like ADP's has been filling in the blanks on the economic picture. We can't even get data from the government. Wall Street Journal. What did Plutonium say? I got a turkey for $13 or something at Sam's Club, but got diapers, wipes, butt wipe, and the turkey, gravy, and Sam's Club for $172. Well, I'll get to that. Okay, Wall Street Journal, U.S. to skip publication of initial third quarter GDP estimate. So they're just not even going to, they're not even going to issue the economic data. The federal government will skip publication of its delayed initial estimate of third quarter gross domestic product, instead aiming to get back on track with an update that remains to be scheduled. The Bureau of Economic Analysis said on Monday, yesterday. It's there's no data. It's the greatest economy ever. Trust in Trump, bro. Trust in Trump. It is for him. He's got gold leafed everything everywhere. I did see a report. Trump organization family they took quite a bath in this downturn in the crypto market. So don't cry for them, because they've rugged what the Trump coin and the Melania coin. They rugged them both, ripping off idiot MAGA investors. So there you go. I wouldn't cry for them too much on these downturns. And then what the hell is going on here? Oh, quickly on I did good. I was very thrifty this year where I do my grocery shopping, grocery outlet. If you made a purchase of over $50, they would sell you a turkey there for $6. And so I got a $6 turkey there with my purchase of the rest of my Thanksgiving meal. And so I felt very thrifty and felt like I did a good job there on my turkey shopping this year. Okay. Failing New York Times report, 10 billion and counting. Trump administration snaps up stakes in private firms. What? Yeah. The government is, this is called free market capitalism. No, this is some other thing. This is this crony, monopoly, capitalist, fascist, socialist, just like a blob blur of government interfering in free enterprise, in my opinion, picking winners and losers, because, the insiders don't lose, regardless if they go bankrupt. Their products are no good. They hurt people, for instance, as one industry we know does a whole lot of. and many other issues, you know, out there in the market, trying to make it in free market capitalist system that they tell us. We're in end-stage capitalism, all these commies and socialists always say. And I'm like, we don't even have a capitalist system. This thing is command and control, centralized control from the top down by the government. And they pick the winners and losers. And so you think that this is some a slight against capitalism or free enterprise is actually the system we should have. Not even capitalism, right? Just simply free enterprise. But when you have the government backstopping and picking winners and losers, we don't have that. We don't have that. We have technocracy. That's what it is. I guess that's what this new weird mix of government and private enterprise is. We'll just call it technocracy, what it is. The Trump administration is spending billions of dollars on deals with ownership stakes in companies. The unusual practice shows no sign of slowing. And so it's this quasi deal going on, because full control of means of production would be communism. And like, it feels socialist, but you know what I mean? So we'll just call it technocracy. Here are the new government stakes in private firms. Are they private firms? They're now government firms. Let's take a look. Intel, we knew about Intel, right? Intel, 9.9 stake, U.S. federal government there. Lithium Americas, 5 stake, and 5% stake in Thacker Pass joint venture. MP Materials, 7.5 stake, plus a right to an additional 7.5 stake. I can 15% stake in that company. MP Materials. Re-Element Technologies, right to future stock purchase at set price. Trilogy Metals, 10% stake, plus right to an additional 7.5% stake. Vulcan Elements, $50 million equity stake. Vulcan Elements, right to future stock purchase at set price. Westinghouse, propping up nuclear energy there, option to take 8% stake. U.S. Steel golden share. I don't even know what that means. And so all of these companies obviously can and will never fail. So right there's a list, just saying, you know what I'm saying? They're backstopped by the U.S. federal government in this technocracy that we find ourselves in. This ain't good, man. This ain't good. All right. Eric Trump showcased an, quote, American Bitcoin crypto mining facility in Texas, which has 35,000 liquid cooled servers in operation, he claims. Let's see this clip.
Hey friends, Eric Trump. Welcome to American Bitcoin. It's a little sneak peek of our facility in Texas using American energy to mine Bitcoin right here on American soil. We could not be more proud of this facility. 35,000 of these servers right here, all liquid cooled, securing the network, mining Bitcoin. Every single day we mine about 2% of the world's Bitcoin supply, and we safeguard it every single day. So when people say that cryptocurrency is intangible, it's not. It's very tangible. And this right here, guys, is living proof.
Trump family's profiting a lot off of his presidency. What do we make of this? Because I don't trust the government, but obviously we can't have all of these violent criminals running around hurting people. Chicago mayor, we cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. And then El Salvador president, Bukele, says you can literally incarcerate your way out of violence. Bukele reckons the U.S. just needs to pump its numbers up. And so I'm kind of torn on this. Let's take a listen. We can't be having these supermax prison. The problem is, same with the death penalty. I'm 100% for the death penalty if you, but the problem is having a corrupt government implement it is the problem, because they can set up innocent people. You know what I mean? And so it feels like we're going to get a pendulum swing overreaction and incarcerate a bunch of people that maybe probably shouldn't. When we had the pendulum swing with these liberal policies that should have locked up violent offenders and kept them in jail, because they let them out and they go hurt people more. So the backlash to these liberal policies on violent criminals is going to be a police state.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence.
See, part of that, I agree with part of that, but what do? You can't have violent criminals hurting people, running around and not being punished for it. I don't care what color of skin they have. They're not, they're not functioning correctly in society to go hurt people. So feels like the liberal policies failed and the pendulum's going to swing back. We're going to get a hardcore police state here now out of this. It's what it feels like. A little bit of public health news here now. Out of the UK, UK concludes exercise Pegasus, the largest pandemic simulation in nearly a decade, with the simulated virus, introvirus, EVD68, thought to originate from pigs and primarily killing children. This autumn, the UK conducted exercise Pegasus, the country's largest pandemic simulation in nearly a decade, and its first Tier 1 national emergency exercise since the bat problem. Concluding last month, it involved ministers, all devoted nations, Cobra activation, and every major governmental department. Participants faced a fictional novel strain of DE68 that originated on the imaginary Southeast Asian island of Musiana after a food festival. Unlike the bat issue, the simulated virus primarily killed infants, children, and teenagers, causing respiratory failure, brain swelling, and occasional paralysis. The 3-phase drill began in September with regional spread in Asia, progressed in October to a WHO-declared pandemic with school closures, hospital strain, and street protests over social distancing, then escalated in November to national lockdown, non-essential business shutdowns, travel bans, and fears of food shortages from potential pig herd infections. Sir Peter Horby, director of the Pandemic Sciences Institute at Oxford University, said the choice of an introvirus is a good choice because it is a real possibility with real risk, but is different from what we have seen before. Ministers tested both containment and mitigation decisions, including whether early travel restrictions could keep the virus out of Britain. The exercise followed bat inquiries finding that pre-2020 plans focused only on copying coping with high deaths rather than prevention, and that school closures brought ordinary childhood to a halt. Lessons from Pegasus will be published next year. And so they're going to run the same policies that they did for the bats. That works so wonderfully. It's just ridiculous. It's just freaking ridiculous. Have we learned nothing? I guess we learned to scream science in people's faces, and anybody that disagrees with public health policy, ban them from society, essentially off the interwebs. I guess that's what they learned. They didn't learn anything from their failed policies, that's for sure. Oh, I guess it was all wonderful. It was all wonderful and saved us, YouTube, right? Okay. I still don't believe all these GPUs are just powering the Bitcoin algorithm. Plutonium. Well, thank you, Plutonium. He gave us a tip over there on the YouTube. He says his calculation was his rough calculation, 266.67 increase in 42 years on the food. Well, thank you for that rough calculation. It's the golden age. Well, Trump's rolling out the Golden Dome quietly. The U.S. Space Force quietly awarded several sub $9 million contracts to undisclosed companies to build early prototypes of space-based missile interceptors for Trump's Golden Dome defense program. The awards use fast, low transparency contracting rules and keep contractor names secret for security reasons, according to a report out of Bloomberg. And so doesn't this just feel like a giant boondoggle? It does to me, man. The Golden Dome for America. I guess the question is, can they shoot down these hypersonic missiles is the question here now. And I don't think we've seen any evidence that they can. Before we throw all this $1 billion at this thing, can they shoot down these hypersonic missiles? So reported yesterday, Doge is gone, disbanded. Doge replied to that. I'm not trusting the government on this. And there was a bunch of cope excuses from MAGA clowns on the interwebs saying, "Oh, well, you just don't understand. Now they're now they have a Doge agent embedded in every agency, and they're weeding out waste, fraud, and abuse continually." I'm like, okay, since Doge went into effect, the national debt has increased $2 trillion. So you tell me where they're cutting all this waste, fraud, and abuse. It was all just a bunch of hype and cover to go ahead and implement technocracy on us. But here's what Doge said in reply to a report originating out of Reuters. And then, of course, it made its rounds. So they're replying to this Reuters report. Exclusive: Doge doesn't exist with 8 months left on its charter. Doge replied on the X here, saying, "As usual, this is fake news from Reuters. President Trump was given a mandate by the American people to modernize the federal government and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse. Just last week, Doge terminated 78 wasteful contracts and saved taxpayers $335 million. We'll be back in a few days with our regularly scheduled Friday update." Really? Really? Is $335 million really anything to the federal government? It doesn't feel like it is. It's a lot of money, but really? Okay. Doge says they're around still. I don't believe them, but. Okay, on to the technocracy. AI Christian singer Solomon Ray tops the charts, stirs ethical debate. Report out of The Hill. We played that one country #1 AI, 2 weeks ago, something like that. Solomon Ray became the top artist on the iTunes Top 100 Christian and Gospel Albums chart last week. But there's something that may bother you about the Christian artist. He's not human. He's not human. And so it's all AI generated. They're tricking the Christians. And we wouldn't have it any other way, would we? Of course not. The Presidential AI Challenge. Let's hear from the First Lady. They launched this today again, or reminded us. Or ZZ Top, bigoted rednecks. I don't know. Def. Are they? I enjoy ZZ Top. Here's First Lady, Presidential AI Challenge.
Are you ready for an AI challenge? Take part in this nationwide initiative to discover, develop, and expand AI's potential. As someone who created an AI-powered audiobook and championed online safety through the Take It Down Act, I've seen firsthand the promise of this powerful technology. Now, I pass the torch of innovation to you. Just as America once led the world into the skies, we are poised to lead again, this time in the age of AI. The President's National Artificial Intelligence Challenge invites every student in America, from kindergarten to 12th grade, to unleash their imagination and showcase the spirit of American innovation. Our educators will guide and empower you through this process to build a brighter, stronger future for us all. Visit ai.gov to register today. Good luck!
We're going full speed ahead with technocracy here now. President Trump launches the Genesis mission, a national effort to accelerate scientific breakthroughs using AI and propel America into the golden age of innovation, is what they're saying. And what kind of nightmares are they going to create here now is the problem, you see. It's a huge opportunity for the United States to continue to outpace the world in scientific discovery and innovation. The largest marshaling of the federal government scientific apparatus since the Apollo project, they claim. Did they forget about Operation Warp Speed? It seems like we've forgotten about that.
I think it's a huge opportunity for the United States to continue to outpace the world in scientific discovery and innovation. It's a place where the U.S. has always, for decades, even centuries, been a world leader in scientific breakthroughs, and this is the next big phase.
Will the Genesis mission guarantee that we stay one step ahead of China?
It is a very, very important step forward for continued U.S. leadership in scientific discovery and in AI more broadly. This is, I would argue, probably the largest marshaling of the federal government scientific apparatus since the Apollo project. And it's a special moment in our country's history in order to remind the world of just how amazing the U.S. is for scientific discovery. I think.
And so what are they saying? What are they telling us here, really? That this is all fake? We're in a new Cold AI war with China, a new space race with China. We got to beat China, so we got to throw $1 billion at it. National Design Studio. I believe some of the Doge went and worked for these guys. They're the federal government website designers. These guys right here. And they did create a nice website. I'll admit that. A national initiative to accelerate science through artificial intelligence. And here's their website. And it is a very nice website. An official website of the United States government. A national mission to accelerate science through artificial intelligence. Let's watch the clip from the Genesis announcement.
In every age, humanity invents new ways to see further. The telescope let us glimpse the stars. The microscope revealed the worlds within us. For centuries, thinkers like Leibniz, Shannon, and Turing dreamed of making all knowledge computable. But today, knowledge grows faster than our ability to understand it. Trillions of data points, a universe of information still unconnected. Now, a new instrument emerges, one capable not only of observing the universe, but of understanding it. Genesis mission will transform how science is done in America, uniting our brightest minds, most powerful computers, and vast scientific data into one living system for discovery. Built on artificial intelligence and quantum computing, it will radically redefine the scale, speed, and purpose of scientific progress in America. This is the work that will define our generation's legacy. A new revolution begins, one guided not by competition alone, but by curiosity, imagination, and the belief that discovery is the truest form of progress.
Fancy video there, right? Paid for by our tax money. Genesis mission is a national initiative. Well, let me just put it on the screen so you can enjoy our tax money spent on this fancy website as well as me. Genesis mission is a national initiative to build the world's most powerful scientific platform to accelerate discovery, science, strengthen national security, and drive energy innovation. Genesis mission will develop an integrated platform that connects the world's best supercomputers, experimental facilities, AI systems, and unique data sets across every major scientific domain to double the productivity and impact of American research and innovation within a decade. And then collaborators in the technocracy, here they are. We've been naming them. It ain't hard to figure out, right? NVIDIA, Anthropic, Amazon, AMD, Google, OpenAI, Microsoft. And so this is our technocracy. IBM, we can't forget about them, right? IBM. And so here are the usual suspects, the collaborators. Let's take a look at energy. Fusion, they tell us, fusion you can plug into, harnessing the power of the stars to deliver abundant, affordable energy through real-time collaboration between scientists, supercomputers, and AI systems. Researchers can design, test, and stabilize fusion reactors far faster than before, accelerating the realization of sustainable fusion power. Advanced nuclear faster and safer, creating a new generation of more efficient reactor designs, including new modular reactors that provide reliable around-the-clock energy. Engineers and AI tools work together to optimize reactor design, materials, licensing, and operations, shortening development timelines while strengthening safety and performance. An intelligent, resilient grid, building a power network that grows as fast as the technologies it fuels by combining human expertise in energy planning with AI-enabled forecasting and simulation. Teams can modernize the nation's grid, improving reliability and accelerating deployment of new infrastructure. Discovery science. Thomas will like this one, the molecules. Seeing molecules in action, revealing chemical and biological processes as they unfold in real time. AI will work with ultra-fast experiments to observe molecular dynamics and uncover insights that accelerate breakthroughs in materials and medicine. Understanding the universe from quarks to cosmos, connecting the smallest particles to the largest structures. physicists guided by AI tools that reason across astronomical and partial physics data work together to test new theories about dark matter, dark energy, and the laws of nature. Discovering new quantum algorithms, unlocking the next frontier of computation. AI serves as a reasoning partner for researchers generating and verifying new classes of quantum algorithms, while scientists interpret and validate the results, bringing practical quantum computing closer to reality. National security, minerals, securing critical minerals, reducing dependence on foreign supply chains. Minerals scientists and AI systems co-design substitutes, responsibility, utilize Earth's resources, and recover rare elements from waste, building a stable, self-reliant foundation for the nation's future industries. Accelerating advanced manufacturing, turning design into production at the speed of need. At the speed of need. Engineers and AI-driven digital twins share a continuous feedback loop between design, sensors, and fabrication, cutting qualification time and boosting efficiencies. Discovering mission-ready materials, delivering alloys, polymers. Remember the miracle polymers? It's all for your own health. And composites vital to defense and industry. Human insight and AI-guided discovery converge to fuse simulation, literature, mining, and autonomous labs, pointing toward a future where years of materials research could unfold in a fraction of the time. And the new era begins now. Follow the mission. And here's their fancy logo there. Probably some type of esoteric occult meaning behind it. I haven't looked into it, but was that 3 C's? You got a C, a C, a C. Something going on there. Moons, right? There's something going on with this logo. Not quite sure what it is, but I'm sure there's something esoteric and occult going on with it, as that has to be tied in to everything, as we know. And so that's the fancy website there, paid for by your tax money through the U.S. Department of Energy, launching Genesis mission there as they're cranking up this technocracy. Well, how much more do we got on the technocracy? 2 more reports, and then we can take our commercial break here now. What's Plitskin say on the old on the YouTube? The U.S. seems to be becoming one big concentration camp for its citizens at the whims of its elitists. Yeah, we ain't seen nothing yet. We ain't seen nothing yet. We're at the beginning of this thing, but it's looking ugly. Maybe it's time to escape from New York or LA, Plitskin. Armaco Ventures to open Paris office for major European AI investments. Armaco Ventures, a subsidiary of Saudi oil giant Armaco, is setting up an office in Paris to manage European artificial intelligence investments that are expected to reach hundreds of millions of euros, the CEO told Reuters earlier today. Europe has fallen behind the AI race, with slow permitting processes and regulatory hurdles limiting its ability to rival the United States and China. Still, the rise of AI startups like Mistral, a strong talent base, and government commitments to support AI development convinced Armaco, Ventures to select France Aladel said, that's the CEO, was the reason why they looked at France. And so rolling it out there in France with a Saudi-French partnership going on there. And then birds aren't real, right? We're told, hey, it's all birds are a conspiracy theory run by the intelligence agencies, the CIA. Birds aren't real, right? Remember that goofy conspiracy theory that went around the internet for a while? Anyhow, turns out they may have been right. It's official. Pigeons can now be government-controlled spies, just like we always suspected. Russian company Neri developed a neuro interface kit that turns ordinary pigeons into, quote, biodrones. Electrodes implanted in their brains let operators control their flight remotely. This is not good. Here's video.
Голубь летит на базовую локацию. Направо. Налево. Направо. Налево. Налево. Направо. Направо.
Токар 357.
So there you go. I guess birds aren't real. They're a bunch of damn Russian spy drones. We truly are in a brave new world here now. Technocracy going at AI speed. And with that, let's take our live commercial break. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com. Here's your holograph sticker. We have the white background sticker and the clear background sticker at weaponizednews.com there. We appreciate all of the support, the subscribers, the patrons to the store. Go to weaponizednews.com. And I'll just do it live here and tell John, if you're listening, who ordered a hat, I had to, let me pull it up here. I had to change the design of the hat, and that's what is causing the delay in the shipping. Turns out that it's embroidered, right? So the graphic of Weaponized News Hounds that I had put on the back of the hat, turns out it was too detailed to embroider. So apologies for that, John, if you were expecting to see that. It looked really nice, but the company that does the embroidery said it was too detailed to embroider, so I had to remove it. Anyhow, it's still a very nice hat. Here it is. It still has the classic Weaponized News logo there on the front. Very nice indeed. But I had to remove the Weaponized News Hounds embroidery that I had right there, again, because it was too detailed, and they said they couldn't do the embroidery work on it. Anyhow, thank you for your patronage there, John, and I still think it's a real nice hat. I may try to make some other type of design, but it can't be that detailed as the one I had, due to the embroidery work that is needed to be done on it. So anyhow, go to weaponizednews.com store and check out what we got going on over there. A bunch of shirts, hats, Weaponized News items, shot glass. I know, listen to this show, you'll want to be drinking after the end of this, right? So yeah, weaponizednews.com store there. Appreciate the patronage. Okay, let's and then again, in the description below this video is a link to the store, our Cash App link, Buy Me a Coffee link, and our Bitcoin wallet address, all in the description below this video. Thank you everyone for all the subscriptions, the patronage to the store, we got to really try to crank up the campaign to earn some end of the year funding to keep this whole ship going. And by the way, Simon is going to come on next week on Monday, I believe, and we're going to have to do a special time because of the time difference that we're facing. So I do believe we'll be doing 2 on Mondays only. He's going to come on Mondays only for a couple months here now. And I do believe on Mondays, we're going to have to do 2 p.m. Pacific time. And what would that be? 5 Eastern time. And so, but don't worry if you can't catch it live. The on-demand replays will be on all of the channels for you. And so I just wanted to get that out of the way. Welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this November 25th, 2025 edition. Hope everyone's having a great Tuesday as we prepare for this Thanksgiving holiday weekend coming up here now. Hope everybody's having a good time with their family. Okay, well, we're preparing for war here now. Back to the serious news. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, posted this yesterday on his X. war.gov/join the fight. U.S. Department of War. The Pentagon hasn't passed a financial audit ever, since 2018 when it was mandated. We don't know where any of the money goes there. Know what I mean? What are you, a pro-Hamas commie? You want to know where $1 trillion, more than that? And what is it that Catherine Austin Fitz always talking about, the 21 trillion missing? There's just a lot of freaking money missing that just goes into a black hole at the Pentagon. And we're just supposed to say, oh, well, at least I'm not a Hamas. You know what I mean? It's like, no, what the hell is going on there? It's just beyond the pale of corruption. Oh, we can't account for it. And Trump's like, oh, here's another trillion plus whatever. And forget about accounting for any of the $1 trillion plus dollars. Just make the Golden Dome protect me. And it's just, come on, man. Come on, this is not serious. They are deadly serious, but not serious in their accounting, to say the least. Christmas canceled for U.S. troops surrounding Venezuela. General Dean Cain, America's most senior military officer, has been dispatched to the Caribbean. Things are escalating here now. The U.S. troops in the Caribbean have reportedly been told they may not be able to go home for Thanksgiving and Christmas as the White House ramps up its pressure on Venezuela in the Caribbean. Department of War, these are threatening, intimidating posts they're putting out here. Building lethal precision. U.S. Army soldiers completed the 7th annual U.S. Army Europe Africa Best Sniper Competition. Soldiers competed in multiple challenging scenarios against snipers from multiple NATO allies. And so they posted this, and they're posting still, I showed you guys yesterday and the day before, a bunch of pictures with men, our troops, with guns shooting them, like very intimidating looking. I gotta say here now. Report out of antiwar.com, Venezuela under siege, 100 deaths at sea, hundreds of thousands by sanctions. Washington is targeting the Venezuelan people in an escalating regime change offensive, combining open military violence with an economic siege that has quietly claimed far more lives. And so that's what we don't talk about enough, because the shock and awe of blowing up the ships. But hey, economic sanctions are an act of war here now. And we throw sanctions around a whole hell of a lot. It's estimated here, let's see, sanctions kill, as horrific as the slaughtered by direct U.S. military violence against Venezuela may be, a far greater contributor to excess deaths has received scant media attention. The toll from sanctions is well over 100-fold larger. Economists Mark Wisbrot and Jeffrey Sachs demonstrated that U.S. sanctions imposed between 2017 and 2018 drastically worsened Venezuela's economic crisis and directly contributed to an estimated 40,000 excess deaths. By 2020, former UN Special Rapporteur Alfred de Zayas estimated a death toll of over 100,000. An expert in international law, de Zayas argues that sanctions function as collective punishment, harming civilians rather than government officials. Yeah, we do forget about the sanctions are an act of economic war indeed. And these elitists in these other countries, yeah, it's affecting Joe Blow citizens, not them in the government, in the crime syndicate for their arm of it. Let's see, what are we, more reporting on it here. U.S.-led Operation Southern Spear has killed nearly 100 Venezuelans at sea under a false drug trafficking pretext, despite UN and DEA reports confirming Venezuela's minimal role in narcotics trafficking as a transit country only, with no production or evidence against President Maduro. That's what we keep saying. Okay, they're the worst of the worst in the world. Where's the evidence? They need a full public trial here now. Rule of law, due process. They just whack them. Sanctions imposed since 2017 have resulted in 40,000 excess deaths. We reported that. Child mortality has surged disproportionately with sanctions, causing more global death than overt warfare, according to a study out of the Lancet, exacerbating malnutrition, diarrhea diseases, and denied cancer treatments among children under 5. International bodies, including the UN High Commissioner and jurists from 35 countries, have condemned the attacks as war crimes, while the US's own drug reports debunk its claims, highlighting hypocrisy as the primary narcotics consumer. Hybrid warfare via sanctions affects 1/4 of humanity and is difficult to reverse, as seen in Cuba's 1961 case, normalizing lethal economic coercion against civilians. What else do we got? U.S. sanctions affect 1/4 of the world's population. Why did they? Oh, they hate us for our freedom. Oh, it's not the fact that you're starving them to death, using the dollar as the world reserve currency as a weapon of war. Nothing to do with that. It's because you're a damn terrorist. Okay. They hate us because we're free over here. Oh, okay. Got it. Report out of the War Channel, Fox News. They're saying here now that it's not just Venezuela why we're prepping all of this military in the Caribbean. It's also about getting Russia and China and Iran out of the Western Hemisphere. Let's watch this short report.
Should President Trump order strikes against the Maduro regime, there's plenty of firepower in the Caribbean to do it, with about 30% of all deployed American warships, including the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford, now on station. There are over 200 Tomahawk cruise missiles in theater aboard destroyers and U.S. Marines aboard the USS Iwo Jima and other amphibs in the Ready Group. Now, ahead of Thanksgiving, the U.S. military's top officer, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Raisin Kane, arrived in Puerto Rico yesterday to meet the forces who are part of Operation Operation Southern Spear. So with General Kane in the region, we'll have to see if Secretary Hegseth follows suit ahead of Thanksgiving. And one thing officials have said is some of this buildup in the Caribbean goes beyond the Maduro regime. It's about getting Russia, China, and Iran out of the Western Hemisphere, guys.
Quite a buildup here. You can see. You can see there, as we've been reporting, we're waiting. Here's Republican Representative Maria Salazar on Venezuela. They're prepping the propaganda right now, as well as military assets.
I mean, I would love to see a change in government. My wife's from Nicaragua. We know how terribly the dictators there rely on Venezuelan oil. But at the same time, a lot of Americans don't want actual U.S. participation in regime change in Venezuela. They would much prefer the Venezuelans to do it on their own. Do you think the pressure that Maduro has received will force him to leave on his own?
Oh, I think Maduro is not Fidel Castro. Maduro is not a brave boy. So now that he has understood that he's on that very nefarious list of the terrorist organization, that the airspace above Venezuela has been closed off and the commercial airlines from the United States are not flying, he's understanding that we're about to go in. He understands that he has been our enemy for the last 25 years. Venezuela, for those Americans who do not understand why we need to go in, basically for three reasons. You're in Fox Business. Venezuela, for the American oil companies, will be a field day because it will be more than $1 trillion in economic activity. American companies can go in and fix all the oil pipe, the whole oil rigs, and everything that has to do with the Venezuelan petroleum companies, or everything that has to do with oil and the derivatives.
Dude, she said the quiet part out loud. We need to go in for the oil companies. Are you effing kidding me? Flashback: former CIA officer John Stockwell exposes the, quote, war on drugs as a scheme for population control. Between commercial television and lots of crack, you can take a lot of the guts out of society. Let's watch this clip. Oh, they're doing it just to, Trump says every boat they whack, they save 25,000 Americans. They just pull these numbers out of their rear end. But USA, for the oil companies, of course. Pretty bold, pretty bold.
When you have the top this deeply involved in the drug smuggling and providing airplanes for the drug smugglers, when you have our big bankers laundering the money and bringing it back into the system, if they were really interested in purging our society from drugs, you could do it pretty quickly if you went after the bankers so they couldn't profit from it anymore, and then you impeached Bush and jailed him and a bunch of other people at that level, and just the information that they have, and started locking people up at that level, then start down and you could dry this thing up. Then God knows at some point, but they're not going to do that. That's the big bucks, that's the big money. They don't like civil liberties. Give them more control over the people. Now, you have that kind of money and tolerance of the thing at the top. The White House involved, Oliver North getting memos back and forth with Robert Owens saying these people were working or smuggling drugs, knowing about it, giving protection, Ed Meese giving protection, fending off investigations. George Bush, through Greg Rodriguez and the others, actually flying the drugs. Now, this makes an utter mockery of their claim of a war against drugs. So then you come back and look at the drug testing. Clearly, they're not interested in cleaning drugs out of the society. So why are they trying to get into the testing? And that's where you become very suspicious, because that's a tremendously effective tool for population control.
As a means of social control, that also is another reason why drugs are tolerated in the U.S. and other capitalist countries, because it is a form of social control. People are stoned out on drugs, addicted to drugs, obsessed with drugs.
Drunk.
They're going to not be social rebels.
Exactly. Between commercial television and lots of crack, you can take a lot of the guts out of the society without question.
Don't do drugs, kids. The government's running the racket. Here's another flashback. In 2017 testimony, Dutch financier Ronald Bertrand paints a world of blackmail, psychological control, and dark occultic rituals performed by a shadowy, quote, elite of roughly 8,000 people who secretly, quote, run the show from behind the scenes. And this kind of speaks to Professor John Coleman's Committee of 300 claim in that book. Let's take a listen to this clip.
The people I worked for in the end of the days, you're talking roughly about 8,500 people on this world who run the show. And they are like who I was. Completely afraid, nearly dead, filling up the holes daily, never enough, serving the monster of greed, the monster of more. And there comes Lucifer in. And nature was nothing. It was to be destroyed. We were hating everything what represents life, what represents the creator of heaven and earth. Don't take this very light. My turning point was that I was so good in everything I did with my team that I was, in their opinion, ready for the last stage, to be invited and sacrifice of children. That hits me. That was really going through my bunker. I couldn't handle it. It was hitting me like hell.
Continuing here, is the Russia-Ukraine war going to finally come to an end? Trump put out this post, ending the war. Over the past week, my team has made tremendous progress with respect to ending the war between Russia and Ukraine, a war that would have never started if I were president. Yeah, buddy, we heard it. Last month, 25,000 soldiers died. The original 28-point peace plan, which was drafted by the United States, has been fine-tuned with additional input from both sides, and there are only a few remaining points of disagreement. In the hopes of finalizing this peace plan, I have directed my special envoy, Steve Witkoff, to meet with President Putin in Moscow, and at the same time, Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll will be meeting with the Ukrainians. I will be briefed on all progress made, along with Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Little Marco, and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. Of course, we couldn't leave her out. She's the woman running the world, according to Trump. I look forward to hopefully meeting with President Zelensky and President Putin soon, but only when the deal to end this war is final or in its final stages. Thank you for your attention to this matter, very important matter, and let's all hope that peace can be accomplished as soon as possible. Well, I agree with Trump on that. But remember, Trump said if he was elected, the war would be over in 24 hours. We're a year in this thing already since Trump's been in office. Promises made, promises wrong. I don't know. What do you guys think of this? This is from This comes from RT, so it's Russia State TV. But they're saying what just, and did they Photoshop this? I don't know. Take a look. They say what just fell out of Zelensky's nose. I don't know. You tell me. Is it a rock of cocaine? Let's take a look at this video. Is cocaine falling out of Zelensky's nose? I don't know. Take a look.
Дуже предметно координувати нашу дипломатію. Дуже предметно координувати нашу дипломатію. Дуже предметно координувати нашу дипломатію. Дуже предметно.
What the hell?
Предметно. Координувати нашу дипломатію.
What the hell, dude? Something just shot out of dude's nose. If that's a legit video, I don't know. I'm just saying bizarre that you would have that much cocaine. Well, I mean, not for him probably, but bizarre. Okay. ZBS News reports Ukraine agrees to peace proposal with only minor details to settle, officials say, but no word from Russia. You hear Russia? We're waiting for Russia now on this deal. We're waiting for Russia. Zelensky, only Moscow continues to prioritize the war against Ukraine above all else, he said in a video clip speaking Ukrainian. The revised peace plan includes a major concession from Ukraine. It has agreed to limit its armed forces to 800,000 troops, with final details to be settled directly between Trump and Zelensky, according to a report out of the Financial Times. There's 800,000 Ukrainian troops even left. You know what I mean? That's what the report says. I don't know. I honestly have not been tracking all of their troop numbers and where they're at, but man, they've been whacking them, just feeding them into the meat grinder. So how many are even left? And all these reports, of conscripting people, grabbing them off the streets all over the place, right? Over there in Ukraine. Like they're hard up for cannon fodder to be fed into the meat grinder. And so did they even have this many, able-bodied Ukrainians left? I don't know. Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yarmark, said U.S. Secretary of the U.S. Army, Driscoll, will arrive in Kiev this week. So we've been here before, though, right? The Alaska summit, Zelensky coming to the White House, 2-3 times? Meetings. Still nothing. Still no peace. They're still pulling the triggers there now. Maybe we're at the end of this thing, hopefully. Foreign Minister out of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, said Europe had a chance to participate in the settlement of the Ukraine issue, but it failed to do so. Nobody told these characters, Macron, Stallmer, and Merz. They're currently, here's a video of these characters. Just ridiculousness. They're discussing the peace plan in this video, allegedly. Let's show these characters.
Coalition of the Willings. So I suggest to divide our meeting into two parts, if you agree. I will give the floor to Keir right now, and after that perhaps we could have an intervention from Volodymyr to debrief us about the discussions in Geneva, Coalition of the Willings.
So that's a coalition of the willing meeting there. They seem left out in the cold in this whole thing. Sweden's military says it needs long-range weapons up to 2,000 kilometers that can hit deep inside Russia as a deterrent, noting Moscow's expanding missile and drone capabilities. Defense minister out of Sweden said Sweden needs to match Russia's long-range missile launching capabilities, according to a report out of Reuters. There you go. European academic boycotts of aardvark land have doubled despite so-called ceasefire. I wonder why. Bunch of antiseptics running around Europe, as per usual, right? Not the 100,000 plus bodies stacked up. That's nothing to do with it. Bunch of damn antiseptic Hamoses. Academic boycotts of aardvark land universities in Europe have nearly doubled despite the ceasefire intended to halt aardvark land's devastating genocide in Gaza, according to a new report by the Academic Boycott of Aardvark Land Monitoring Team. The group established by the Committee of University Presidents in Tel Aviv recorded around 1,000 boycott cases by November, warning that aardvark land's entrenched negative image is driving unprecedented isolation in global academia. The report published by The Maker notes that instead of easing after the ceasefire, boycott actions intensified, with more institutions and individual scholars severing ties with aardvark land. Consequences already include declining EU Horizon Europe research grants, exclusion from international collaborations, and disruptions to student exchanges and postdoctoral programs. Researchers behind the report caution that the trend is unlikely to reverse without major geopolitical shifts, and that long-term isolation now poses a strategic threat to aardvark land higher education. And in the big report of the day, apparently U.S. troops are in the ground in Somalia, in Somali's Puntland region. Nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. We're in a war with ISIS militants in Syria. Now, according to this report out of antiwar.com, and then they link directly to this report from the ground there. Let's take a look at it. Somalia, the U.S. Special Operations Forces, alongside the Puntland Counterterrorism Forces, conducted a direct raid on Baldi Valley involving ground and aerial combats targeting the ISIS militants in Miskan Mountains. According to the U.S. African Command, the operation in Harbor Bitchute Cave in Baldi Valley was supported by 10 helicopters, which launched an assault on a large cave located in the Baldi area with the Miskad Mountains range. The forces landed on the ground and executed the mission following confrontation between U.S. troops and members of Somal. This marks the first operation conducted by the U.S. forces inside Puntland. During the raid, several prisoners were captured and key Somal figures, including senior leaders, were killed. The operation, which lasted several hours, included a U.S. ground deployment in support of Puntland forces as they executed a carefully planned assault on militant positions, an official said today. So, U.S. boots on the ground killing ISIS terrorists in Somalia, Puntland. Same terrorists created by Western intelligence, funded, trained, radicalized, armed radicalized, and then we have to go whack them. So that's going on. Nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. U.S. troops on the ground in Somalia. This is a funny story. This is a kind of a funny. We needed a funny one after all this heavy news. This is still probably heavy news. Nubian counselor named, this is a name, a black man, Adolf Hitler. Una, expected to win re-election. Adolf Hitler Una, 59 years old, belongs to the Southwest Africa People's Organization, Namibia's left-leaning ruling party since independence from South Africa in 1990, is likely to be re-elected on Wednesday. And so he says, my father gave me this name, Adolf Hitler, but it does not mean I have Adolf Hitler's character or resemble that of Adolf Hitler of Germany. looks like a spitting image to me. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know. I guess his father's a big fan of Adolf Hitler. I don't. Crazy stuff. But there you go. Adolf Hitler looking to win another election there in Namibia. Jordanian foreign minister warns aardvark land against destabilizing Syria. You don't say. Jordanian foreign minister Safadi condemned aardvark land today for violating international law and interfering in Syria. Syria's government wants peace and to focus on rebuilding, ensuring security, and a future for its people. Instead, aardvark land occupies more Syrian territory and meddles destructively in its affairs, he said, the Jordanian foreign minister said. He warned that such destabilization affects the entire region and Europe, citing the migration of 1.3 million Syrians to Jordan and large numbers to Germany. And we just reported they were ordered to go back now to Syria from Germany. The Jordanian government has a formal peace treaty with aardvark land and cooperates on security and water agreements. Economically, Jordan has both trade and energy ties with aardvark land, including electricity imports and joint industrial projects. UAE aardvark land quietly advanced peace railway amid Gaza genocide, according to this report out of the Cradle. Let's take a look. Construction on a UAE aardvark rail line has progressed quietly despite the ongoing genocide in Gaza, with officials describing the work as already in an advanced stage. Aardvark media revealed today. Well, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? According to reports, aardvark transportation minister traveled secretly to Abu Dhabi last week at the head of an unpublicized delegation. The visit, conducted during the height of aardvark land's offense against Gaza, received coordination on what aardvark land media called the Peace Railway. Aren't they cute? Aren't they cute? And well, that it speaks to the corruption of the UAE. Free Palestine, right? They don't give a damn about those Arab Muslims. They don't give a damn. Just like Jordan don't give a damn. Syrian Alawites mobilize against government-led massacres. The Alawites' religious leader in Syria has issued a protest call following attacks carried out by state-sponsored tribal militias in Homs. Thousands of Alawites took to the streets in protest across Syria's coastal cities today to demonstrate against government-sponsored sectarian violence, one day after the minority's religious leader called for mass sit-ins. And so, yeah, there's a bunch of demonstrations by the Alawites there in Syria protesting state-backed militias killing people, essentially. They're in Syria. But what the hell? They got Al-Qaeda, ISIS, reformed terrorist leader, al-Shara. So it's all good. It's all good, right? Yeah. And then flashback, what we always talk about on the show, how these terrorists are created by Western intelligence. Flashback to leaked audio of John Kerry admitting the U.S. plan to topple Assad by arming and training ISIS forces in Syria. They would never do such a thing, would they? It's kind of how it is.
Invited in by the legitimate regime. They were invited in, and we're not invited in. We're flying in airspace there where they can turn on the air defense, and we have a very different scene. They are targeted by the opposition, and we are arming. So, and training. The reason Russia came in is because ISIL was getting stronger. Daesh was threatening the possibility of going to Damascus and so forth. And that's why Russia came in, because they didn't want a Daesh government. And they supported Assad. And we know that this was growing. We were watching. We saw that Daesh was growing in strength. And we thought Assad was threatened. We thought, however, we could probably manage, that Assad might then negotiate. Instead of negotiating, you got Assad. Now you got Putin to support him. So you think the only solution is for somebody to come in and get rid of Assad?
Yes.
That's the only solution.
Yes.
Who's that going to be? Who's going to do that?
3 years ago, I would say you, but right now I don't know.
What we're trying to do is help Syrians to fight for their own country. And we've been spending a lot of money, a lot of effort to try to help do this. So there's an opposition there. The opposition is doing very well. Russia came in, and that's a problem, I know, because we don't behave like Russia. It's just a different standard. We're trying to empower Syrians to be able to fight against this guy. Now the Russians have changed the equation, unfortunately. The Russians have changed the equation.
Huh? Okay, continuing here. Where are we at? I see D2T in the chat on the Rumble. You need to get a cat, bro. Okay, continuing. UN calls for investigations as number of Lebanese civilians killed by Aardvarkland during ceasefire raises to 127. It's a ceasefire, bro. Palestinian refugee camp attack killed 13 civilians, including 11 children. And they just keep stacking the bodies. Trump is turning Gaza into a brutal colonial protection racket. According to a report out of antiwar.com, Trump's peace plan will never be meaningfully realized and was never intended to be. It is simply a way to justify prolonging Gaza's living hell. Oh, man. Yeah, with Tony Blair there in the mix, right? Jared Kushner, these jokers. Corrupt as the day is long. Yeah, I think everybody knows we've been reporting on it daily, where we're at here with it. A whole lot of nothing. They stipulate disarming Hamas. Hamas says they will not be disarmed. And so that's kind of the rub. That's kind of the rub here now, isn't it? U.S. lawmakers propose recognizing November 30th as Aardvark Refugee Day. So we need that, right? The U.S. would designate November 30th as Aardvark Refugee Day under bipartisan resolution put forth by 2 Aardvark lawmakers in Congress. Florida Democrat Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Texas Republican Craig Goldman introduced the measure last Friday, noting that the day would be recognized both in English and in Aardvark language. The observance, originally established by Aardvark Land in 2014, marks the immigration of about 900,000 aardvarks from Arab states following the creation of Aardvark Land. Golf clap for that. Aardvark Land's parliament chose November 30th because it comes the day after November 29th, 1947, when the UN approved the partial plan for British-occupied Palestine and the establishment of Aardvark Land. We've had this. We've played clips of this dude before when he first came out, blowing the whistle about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Here he is again today. Report out of Russian TV, RT. Let's hear what he had to say. Retired U.S. Colonel Anthony Aguilar says that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was never intended to distribute food. The real mission was to lure Palestinians to be biometrically enrolled and or whacked. It's here again.
So my response is twofold. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's mission was never intended to distribute food, to feed, or to provide aid to the Palestinians in Gaza. That was the facade of the mission, the fake smokescreen. Their real mission, under the direction of the Israeli government, was to lure Palestinians to these sites so they could then be biometrically enrolled and or killed. The food that the Palestinians received at these sites was not free. In order to receive food, they had to agree to biometric enrollment, taking fingerprints, iris scan, photo, and then be put into a database. The food was not free. They failed in their humanitarian mission. Absolutely failed. They never even really started. If you consider, they ended operations on the 24th of November. And on that day, they proclaimed 187 meals that they provided to Palestinians. Well, if you do the basic math on that, that's 6 months. That's 183 days. And only 187 meals to a population of 2 million? That's only one meal every other day. 3 meals in 1 week. They did not provide water, and they did not provide enough food. In the humanitarian aid, they failed in their mission to displace the population and kill Palestinians and provide intelligence to the Israeli Defense Forces. They succeeded in that aspect.
And that's exactly what the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was all about. Continuing here. Ambassador, Christian Zionist Mike Huckabee is peddling sleeping supplements while serving as U.S. ambassador to Aardvark Land. And so at the beginning, the seditious six, right? They're pumping that big time, where these politicians told the military, don't follow illegal orders from the president. What about we take a look at old Mike Huckabee hanging out with Pollard, a convicted spy for aardvark land? Talking about sedition and treason, I'd say, oh, Mr. Huckabee is the poster child of said sedition and treason. Right here. Oh, but it can't be such a thing because aardvark land. It's like, no, dude was literally hanging out with a convicted spy spying on America for aardvark land. And we're just supposed to say, oh, well, don't be antiseptic. That's cool. It ain't cool, man. It ain't even a little bit cool. Algeria's representative at the UN Security Council said, we condemn the ongoing and brutal aardvark attacks on Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, and the West Bank. Yeah, all around here, they're bombing the hell out of everything. And then telling us it's a ceasefire. Algeria's representative went on to say, we call on mediators and guarantors of the Gaza peace plan to take measures that maintain the ceasefire and hold the occupying forces accountable to their commitments. The thousands of documented aardvark land war crimes cannot be forgotten and must not go unpunished. Good luck, Algeria. I see a Hamas hiding underneath your bed. They're in Algeria. Gaza Ministry of Health, in the past 24 hours, 17 dead Palestinians, 3 new, 14 retrieved from the rubble, and 16 injuries have been reported since the ceasefire on October 11th, 2025. 345 dead Palestinians, 889 injured, and 588 retrieved remains from the rubble. And that's your aardvark ceasefire. Wow. Okay, the yellow line, we've been reporting on the yellow line, right? Here's the yellow line drawn there. And so now they're saying that they're going to seize everything outside the yellow line. So you're allowed to be here inside the yellow line. You step over the yellow line, you get whacked. You may just get whacked being inside the yellow line there. On October 10th, aardvark forces withdrew to an agreed upon line that kept them in control of 53% of Gaza. The White House plan included 2 future aardvark land withdrawals to around 40% and 15% of Gaza territory. The final stage keeps a security perimeter around the enclave. We've showed you clips of the different lines. This is the infamous yellow line where you mess around here and they're going to whack you. Before there even was a line, they're like, oh, they crossed it. Whack them. The Democrat Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the DFLP, has issued a stark warning that aardvark land's efforts to turn the so-called yellow line into a permanent border would effectively divide Gaza in two and entrench aardvark control over the eastern sector under fabricated pretexts tied to self-defense or disarmament. Well, hell yeah, they're taking this land. You better believe it. Back to here. Edging them out. Maybe they can just push them in the sea there and they can, But yeah, they're taking all this land right here, right? You better believe it. Because this is the Greater Aardvark Land Project real estate redevelopment program in live time here now. Heavy rains and cold weather have hit Gaza tent camps, worsening conditions for displaced families as aardvark land continues to block aid needed to relieve the hardship. Here's a short video of it. Essentially living in squalor, a pile of rubble, and a tent there. It's quite horrific conditions indeed. I guess they can thank their blessings the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation shut down finally and stopped setting them up for assassination, looking for food aid. I mean, my God. Here's a short clip of the conditions there in Gaza. There we go. I didn't realize the clip went dark like that, but you can see there. Yeah, everything is destroyed. Aardvark land redrawing Gaza's yellow line to entrench occupation, Russia tells the UN. And so Russia's UN ambassador told the Security Council that Aardvark land is tightening its control over Gaza by moving the yellow line that splits the enclave, leaving Palestinians exposed to Aardvark land fire while they step over unmarked or newly shifted sections. Damn, man. He said Aardvark forces have altered parts of the line inside Gaza City in a breach of the ceasefire and continue to block humanitarian deliveries while more than 300 Palestinians have been killed by Aardvark airstrikes since the ceasefire on October 10th. You can't trust the sneaky Aardvarks, man. They keep proving it every freaking single day. So they're like, you cross this yellow line, you're getting whacked. And then they're like, well, we moved the yellow line. What the hell? You're whacked now. You know what I mean? And so they just make up whatever to keep on whacking Palestinians and stacking the bodies up. Aardvark forces demolish a number of buildings behind the yellow line east of Gaza City. Gaza Government Media Office reports 2,615 have died from starvation near aid centers belonging to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. They knew, they saw. You run up there with a bowl in your hand. Can I get some beans? Boom. You know what I mean? And so it's like, choose your way of dying, essentially. Starve to death or just take a bullet in the head or get blown up or however they whack you. It's just quite horrific. German researchers determined over 100,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza. Let's take a look at this report. And remember the Lancet put out a report, like 6 months ago? They were saying 180,000 estimated dead or something like this. Anyway, this is from yesterday, translated from German into English. More than 100,000 killed in Gaza. The number of dead Palestinians in Gaza war is fiercely disputed. The Time has data that significantly more people have died than is known. The number of dead Palestinians in the Gaza war could be significantly higher than previously thought, according to calculations by a team of researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Demographic Research in Rostock, Germany. At least 100,000 people have apparently died or been killed in the more than 2-year war. The research results are available at Zit. We will never know exactly the actual number of dead, co-leader of the project said. we're just trying to appreciate as much as possible what could be a realistic scale, right? And then here's our little graphs. That didn't translate into English, but you could see the scientists from Rockstock have compiled data from various sources and carried out a statistical extrapolation in addition to the data from the Ministry of Health, an independent household survey, and death reports from social media have also been included. On their approach, the scientists published an essay in the journal Population Health Metrics in October. The article has been independently reviewed by recognized experts. So far, the only official source for the number of dead has been the Ministry of Health of the Gaza Strip. It came in the first 2 years of the war to 67,173 dead. The agency, however, is run by Hamas, which is why its figures are being questioned by Aardvarkland's government and international observers. The Ziyet also circulated the ministry's information only with reservation. However, there is no evidence of manipulation of statistics. Rather, in the past, various research teams found that the Ministry of Health even counts more conservatively. The fact that more people died in the war between Aardvarkland and Hamas than the official figure is revealed is now well documented. Different studies each come to a high dark number. So they're saying that it's even worse than what the official numbers coming out of the Gaza ministry say. They're being conservative in their estimates of those killed in the genocide. The first 2 years of the war, the Hamas raid on Aardvarkland on October 7, 2023, the worst attack in the history of the world, to 6 October this year, between 99,997 and 125,915 people have died or been killed in the fighting in the Gaza Strip. The average estimate of the researchers is 112,069 people. In addition, there are 1,983 killed aardvarks, according to the IDF. And of course, the charts here are in German, so not much use unless you can read German. The calculations of the scientists show that about 27% of the war dead are probably children under the age of 15. About 24% are women. According to the Max Planck researchers, the estimated distribution of death figures by age and gender is similar to what the United Nations has found in genocides in the past. In fighting between armed groups, on the other hand, the deaths would be much more focused on young men. And that does make sense, right? But yeah, they're saying over 100,000. And that Lancet report said over 100,000. And then, as we covered, these sanctions, right, are a big part of the war effort here. It's not just bang, bang. It's we're causing you to not have an economy, to not be able to live. Palestinian economy records worst ever collapse since start of Gaza genocide, according to a report out of the UN. It's also a major part of war. A report by the UN Trade and Development published today states that the Palestinian economy has entered its sharpest collapse on record after 2 years of genocide and military onslaught layered onto years of aardvark restrictions that have choked movement, trade, and economic activity. You don't say. You don't say. Everything there is, I mean, yeah. Yeah. The UN Trade and Development posted that over 174,500 damaged structures in Gaza, 70% of the place is leveled. Oh, how do you have an economy? I don't know. Sell a bowl of beans out of a pile of rubble. You know what I mean? It's just wow, man. So yeah. Gaza's economic contraction is described as extreme. Over 2023 and 2024, GDP shrank cumulative by 87%. Jeez, man. That's like total collapse, right? Well, yeah. When you live in a pile of rubble, that's all you got left because they blew everything up. Yeah. It's quite horrific conditions there, to say the least. Aardvark Land Army announces its intention to completely demolish 12 more homes and partially demolish 11 others in Jenin refugee camp, occupied West Bank. And then finally, Aardvark Media reports deepening mental health collapse after 2 years of Gaza genocide. We've been reporting on it. Yeah, it's going to have tolls. It's going to have tolls on everyone. Of course, the Palestinians are worse. They're taking the brunt of it. But also, if you have a conscience and you're committing genocide, whacking unarmed women and children, and you're not just pure evil, then you're going to have a hard time living with yourself once you come back out of the war and realize, like, what the hell did I do? You know what I mean? If you're a human. Aardvark Land outlets have reported that nearly 2 million people, including large numbers of soldiers, now require state-provided psychological support as a result of Tel Aviv's 2-year genocidal campaign in Gaza. Yeah. They're citing here now soaring addiction rates, fractured families and communities, and what experts describe as a mental health system unable to absorb the mounting strain. Clinicians and trauma specialists warn that the worst effects often emerge after the fighting subsides. Yeah. Raising fears that future generations will bear the long-term consequences. Indeed, they point to severe shortages of therapists, long wait lists, and deteriorating infrastructure, all of which have intensified the system's long-standing weakness. Addiction and suicide figures reflect the scale of the crisis, with clinical psychologist Murav Roth noting that addiction rates have risen from 1 in 10 people in 2018 to 1 in 4 today. Well, CAN records records 279 suicide attempts and 36 confirmed suicides among soldiers since October 2023. So everybody's negatively affected. The government doesn't care, obviously. Aardvark soldiers are cannon fodder, same as U.S. soldiers and every other soldier around the world for these evil, evil governments. But hey, they're getting a bunch of land, and that was the mission to begin with. Now it's just how do they get them off the rest of this land and get at that oil? Right? There's a bunch of oil, natural gas here, right? Announced discovered. And so, but the problem is you got a bunch of Palestinians right here. Still, right? Was there 1 million plus still rammed in this open air prison known as the Gaza Strip? And they got to get rid of them because they got to get at these natural resources. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was to stamp out the Hamas terrorists. And with that, we're wrapping up this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. Thank you for joining us. Let me go to the channels quickly. Let's check out Odysee first. See who's over on the Odysee. What do we have? Who do we have on the Odysee? Fat Bob. Thank you for joining us, Fat Bob, on multiple platforms. John, thank you for joining us. Gurr, thank you for joining us. Let's see, what do we got? Gurr says per capita, allegedly lesbians are the highest ranking group for violence against females. Think about it. I don't know. Maybe. FBI, Fat Bob says FBI going to investigate some cruise ship murder, but not Epstein crime. Anything but that. It's a Democrat hoax, right? I mean, Trump has told us. He says, what? John says, what is next in our doomed military who have to invade Venezuela? This polarizing propaganda cause incite rebellion. Are they planning on ordering our troops against the people? Maybe. Gurr says $13 turkey. Surely the animal ate more than $13 of food before it got the chop. I don't know who's running these turkey outfits, right? Maybe we can just get rid of them all due to bird flu and have no birds at all. That'll keep us safe, I'm sure. Highland there as well. Let's see, event 202. I think it was Operation Pegasus, right? We'll be looking for follow-up data once the government out of the UK, Big Brother, publishes it. But according to that report, we're going to do the same routine because it works so well for the bats. It's just, wow, really? That's the best we can come up with, UK? Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee. John, let me know about that hat. If you missed it, I had to remove the embroidery on the back of it. The Weaponized News Hounds embroidery was, the graphic was too detailed to be embroidered on the back of the hat in that small area. So anyhow, you're going to get a little bit different hat than you ordered because, again, I had to remove the Weaponized News Hounds logo from the back of it because it was not able to be embroidered. Thank you for your patronage to the show, and let me know your satisfaction with that hat. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on the Bitchute. As always, the Kick, the Twitch, the Facebook. And thank you, everybody, in the lively chat over there on the Rumble as well, and the YouTube. And with that, we're signing off on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. We'll see you back here tomorrow for Wednesday, and I do believe I'll be taking Thursday off. I haven't decided about Friday yet. We'll have to see if there's any major developments. Invasion of Venezuela, peace deal there out of Russia, Ukraine, and any other major developments. We may have to do some special reports about it. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, as most America is taking Thursday off for sure and Friday off as well. I'll have to see how it all sorts out, if it's worth doing the show. But thank you, everybody, for joining us again on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. And as always, do your own research out there. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Tuesday evening and a great Thanksgiving week here now as the turkey